Good morning, Bears. How is everybody today? It's wonderful to be back with you here in the Big Drum Bear podcast this fine election Tuesday. What's happening? Welcome to some of the new folks that might have popped in here. Well, I noticed Controversy Bear. I know who you are. Uru Sledge, welcome. Yes, that bear is extremely happy about that. Well, now I just realized what you were suggesting. Hey, Kyle Cavanaugh, how you doing today, man? Good to see you. Glad you guys could make it in here. It is that fine morning. I was out yesterday. Was, as some might be aware, down south of where I live, about close to an hour, in a small farming community where my family had settled when they immigrated from Germany almost 140 years ago now. And I was taking care of my grandmother. She'd had some physical issues going on. She's 94, working on 95, and needed a little assistance with some things, and I was available, so I definitely wanted to spend time down there. I love going and spending time in that community. It's so beautiful out in open farm country, and the sky is just so expansive, so beautiful. And there's my wonderful dogs barking at somebody going by the yard there, making their announcement. But in case you didn't catch it, feel free to go check out a video I posted yesterday morning. It was the morning sky that I was greeted with when I decided to go out for a run around 6 a.m. was pretty amazing. You know, Kyle, I'm fixing to do exactly that because I've been meaning to. I'm confused as to why you're not, because I could have sworn I had wrenched you in past. You are wrenchified. You are bearified. You are one of us. So, yeah, that was an oversight. That shouldn't be an oversight. That happens occasionally. Uru Sledge, I've seen you in the Hangouts. You're a known bear. I don't know if that's a good thing, Kyle. I don't know if I'd recommend that you do it that way. Oh, the dogs are singing their song up there. It's the song of their people. Kyle, you can appreciate that, right? Being a musician. If you don't subscribe to Kyle Cavanaugh's channel, definitely check him out because he's a cool cat. He rocks some live streams with his kids all running around half the time, and he'll play songs for you. He's a good cat. Let's see here. Uru Sledge. I was talking about you. Welcome, since it's your first time. How'd you find out about this place? Oh, were you in the Bear Hangouts and you saw that? Or the Bear Unbearables app? Hang on, I can't see all the chats. This wonderful technology. There's the bar. There we go. Hey, Sergeant Peterson, Robot Bear. Got, let's see here. Kodiak's up in here. David Analog Bear's in here. If I missed your name, of course you're always in Unbearables. Why wouldn't you be, Uru Sledge? Well, welcome to Wrench Life. You are now in status of moderator. Liberty Snake Bear, welcome. It's good to have you. Yes, thank you for posting that link there, Code. Hey, so Kodiak, did you get out to Phoenix and back already, or is that not yet? When is that fixing to happen? When does that grand event occur, or do you need to keep OPSEC on that? Do you get an award for Nazi of the Year? Oh, December 9th. Okay, Kodiak, gotcha. That's cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. I hope you enjoy the heck out of that. That's going to be so good. Yeah, would love to get down to something like that, but I know I've got many other duties that require my presence. They require my presence back here. Let's see here. Just looking through the list of folks. I don't want to miss anybody, but I probably will. Oh, really, Kyle? Very cool. That would be awesome. He's going to be in Vegas right after Phoenix? Man, that's a jump. Of course, if you're flying, I guess it works. But I don't usually fly unless the U.S. government somehow requires me to fly somewhere. And then, yeah, most of the time I drive places. I like it that way. Oh. Allow me to turn off these interruptions of my obnoxious little phone. Oh, you know what that sound is? Don't know if you can hear it or not. It is the first Tuesday of the month. And so, in our area, we have a bit of a test. A test of the emergency broadcast system. And the dogs are going to sing their song in response to this constant tone. So, there's going to be a couple. There's going to be this one, and it's going to last a little while here. So, we'll have this backdrop of dog song for a little bit. Is it cold? Not even close. Not even close. Nice, Kodiak. Nice. No, that is not what I'm talking about. Not really. It's getting colder, but it's not cold. Like, I went out for a run yesterday morning because it was not that cold. And I'm probably going to try to run today after we stream here. Well, morning glamping. Yeah, the notifications are late because I didn't prime the show a half an hour in advance. I tried to post links in the Unbearables app and in some Hangouts chats and things like that. And notifications came whenever they came. Make sure to tick that bell icon so you get notified of any videos when I release them. But of course, that means nothing to YouTube these days because of the WOJCICKI fascism that is rampant throughout the platform. So there we go. That's the first siren. There's going to be a wavering tone that shows up here in a minute, and we'll just have to wait that out, I guess. Texas Rose, good to see you. Glad you joined us. So today, the thought was be precise in your songs, right? And I wanted to talk a little bit about some things that happened yesterday. I thought they were of interest. So I took on my first brass student. I've taught a couple of brass instruments, but in a group setting. And it was with other like woodwinds and things like that too. So it was like a group band thing. So specifically just private students I've not had as brass players or anything like that. I have background in playing trumpet to a degree, and a very small degree. And let's see, tuba that I played when I was in school years ago. But again, they weren't my main instruments. I did them, I did the trumpet just for fun, here and there, because I found one in the basement of my parents' old house, and it belonged to the son of the previous owner. So it was interesting, though, that same kid, or that same gentleman, I guess when he was a kid, used that trumpet to play in the middle school band that I was then a part of, I should say. And so the same band director remembered that trumpet, remembered the kid who used to play it. I don't know if you can hear it. There's the wavering tone. It's all over the place around this time. At the beginning of the month like this. Let's see. What'd you say, Sledge? Back in Norman, the sirens made a sound that was very easy to replicate with your mouth. We all started doing it out in the shop, and a salesman came running out saying to stop. We were scaring customers. Where is Norman? What state is that located in? Or is it not located in a state? Is it rather in another country? I'm curious now. I'd definitely like to know more. Where is Norman? Tornado country. Gotcha. Oklahoma. Well, awesome. Is that where you're at now? Or elsewhere? Undisclosed locations. Some bears choose to go Dick Cheney on us, and that's probably advisable. Oh, yep, the dogs are getting antsy. Well spoken, undisclosed, as you should be. Very nice. That's good. But still okay. So, taught this new trombone student last night, and one of the things that I was able to focus on was some of the fundamentals. And I'm going to grab my trumpet real quick because I want you to have a look, see what I'm talking about. Hang on one sec. I should have grabbed it before, but you know me, I'm a real professional. not too hard. All right, so this is the 50-some-year-old trumpet and Olds Ambassador that I've had for quite some time. I brought it in the stream not too long ago, was talking a little bit about it, but what I wanted to focus on with this guy, this new student of mine, was that I wanted to teach him how to make consistent long tones, right? So you're going to need to know how to do it. Whatever note you want to play, you want to play it clearly and consistently, no matter what instrument you play. I'm a drummer. I need to learn to play notes with on any surface that I'm playing on, exactly what I intend to play, one note at a time or multiple notes at a time, whatever I'm trying to do, but do it what I choose. Don't let my weak body choose for me, right? Let your mind choose what you're going to play. So, an example, we were working on the B flat major scale. In trumpet, it would be the C major scale because the trumpet is set up differently where it calls C B flat. So, or it calls B flat C. I should put it that way. And I'll give you an example here to show you the difference. Hopefully I'm enumerating this correctly. This keyboard of mine, I'm going to play for you a C. That's a whole step above what I just played. The note I just played was here, or excuse me, it's a, let's try that again. Hang on a second. I might have that set right. Yeah, there's your B flat. And on here it's a C. On the piano it's called a B flat. But here's a C on the piano. There's an actual, what we would call C on most other instruments. But some instruments are set up where it's just the nature of the way that instrument is constructed that it suits the instrument better to be associated with a particular key, a particular scale within music, right? So, oh, I caught that Sledge. Yeah, I'm tracking. Good old Oklahoma, where the wind goes sleeping down the plains. Oh, I gotcha. See, yeah, actually, I didn't catch that, but you're still okay. Gotcha. I didn't actually get it. I get it now. That's funny. I thought I got it, and then I was like, no, I didn't get it. Now I get it. All right. Robot Bear, are you putting out code? Are you out processing coding from yourself, or what's going on there? 164311421. I don't know what that's in reference to, but it's interesting. All bears are quite unique and interesting. It's certainly true. So we were focused on getting these clear tones, not something like. That's not what we want to be doing. What's happening, Ryan? We got old field up in here. Let's see here. Oh, trombone slide positions. Yes. That's legit, Robot Bear. You got that. Yeah. So Robot Bear remembers. So I need this kid. Thanks, Sovereign. I needed this kid to begin to associate slide positions with certain notes, and he kind of did already, but he wanted to be clearer on it. He needs to be clearer on that, and he will be. But we talked about making sure that when we're working on a tune, something simple like, say, Hot Cross Buns, which we worked on yesterday, just a simple little thing trying to get him to play the notes consistently. We were playing, from my perspective, it would be D. Well, I guess it would be anybody's perspective. It would be not the trumpets. Excuse me. It would be D, C, B flat, D, C, B flat. Right? Very simple. But in order to do that well, right? We want to make sure we're playing our tones consistently. Now, I'm not the greatest at all trumpet player. I just know how to make a semi-clear tone. And see how long I can hold and maintain that clarity, right? Because it doesn't matter how much you learn knowledge-wise. It doesn't matter how fast you can make yourself go. If you can't play slow and clear to begin with, then what you're going to learn if you try to rush it and make it all fast is going to be garbage. It's going to be ridiculosity, right? I just made up a word, ridiculosity, but I like it, so I don't care if it's made up. Is that a little postmodern of me? Perhaps, but it's also funny. So there's that. Now, I have here a drum pad, and I'm going to bring it up to a level where y'all can see it. Y'all. Not just one of y'all, but all y'all. All right, so carefully maneuvering some things here so I can share the joys of drumming with you. All right, this is my little practice pad, my dealy, my bob, and I'm going to bring it down to an acceptable height where it's not up in the sky, it's down low. Okay, so that you can see what I'm doing here. Here's the pad, here's the stick, right? One hit, one sound, right? Or one motion to the stick, boom, and up, right? Down and up. One hit, not multiple, right? That's not what I was trying to do. I don't want double hits. I don't want triple or quadruple, right? That's not what I was aiming for. I want one to be exactly what I was intending to play. Even when I'm doing this on here, that's what I'm aiming for. And if I can't do that simple thing, everything else isn't going to matter. I can learn to say all sorts of complex things with my drumming or my trumpet playing or flute playing or whatever other instrument I'm using. It won't make a hill of beans difference, because if it's not clear and you can't make a distinction as to what I'm trying to play or say, it's just going to be purposeless. So that's why I started that student out with that fundamental. Be very precise in your song. Whatever it is you're playing, every ounce of it, focus on making each moment clear and precise. Be in that moment, right? Attending to those subtle details until it becomes second nature for you to be clear the entire time. And when you get that clearly down, right, that you've got that focus, you've exercised that mental muscle, so to speak, that you're going to take the time to focus on each individual tone and make them clear, right? Then we can move on. And the next thing I want him to focus on is understanding the major scale pattern. We've talked about it on this show. If you go back into the archives of it a little bit, you'll find earlier episodes where I go into how a major scale is built. I might go back at that one of these days and maybe do it in a more clear way. And here's kind of what I'm realizing as I say that. What I'm trying to teach this student, I've taught to other students, and through my processes of teaching, I've often realized that there are areas in my own life where I have not embraced that principle of taking the time to make sure that the individual parts of what you're going to say musically, or in a more practical, pragmatic case, what you're going to say conversationally, right, to another person. You want to take time to make sure that those individual elements of communication are clear, that they can be understood by the best audience possible, the widest audience possible. Because if we go about assuming that we're understandable, right, we're gonna miss out on an opportunity to engage with somebody that we care about. We're going to miss an opportunity to maybe recognize that we don't have it all together and we're incomplete, and we need to attend to something in ourselves. I had opportunities to have conversations yesterday with a number of different people. And in the midst of some of those things, I began to talk with folks. They were talking with me too about situations they were having in their home life and their families where they were trying to have, conversations with their significant other, whatever it be. And they were discovering that there was tension when, there ought not to be. They ought to be able to be unified on that. But they're finding they have controversy over something, and they're kind of here, butting heads on it. And I had to say there are times when I've had that same kind of thing in my own life, in my own marriage. Certainly my certainly my previous at times, which is why it is as aforementioned previous, or it contributed to it being the previous marriage. But the current one, still, because the nature of two people living together that are not the same sex and that are just different people, that will breed controversy in and of itself, right? The nature of the situation, the nature of the individuals involved in it has, along with it, plenty of controversy because we perceive the world differently. It's just how it happens. Now, it's still the same world, but there are aspects of it that each of us are going to see, and we need each other in order to have that complete picture. And even still, it's not going to be complete, which is why I would say, from my experience in my life, I need to rely on that other relationship with the one who created it, as best I can tell, to further fill in all the gaps, to inform that process, to pick up where I just don't have it. So we engage in relationship with each other in humility and in willingness to take up responsibility. These 2 points came out to me. Let's go back to the music idiom for a minute and then bring this back into the practical, relationship thing. In the musical idiom for this whole thing, in the musical experience that I have, no, Andrew J., my lady and I are not gender fluid. Thank you for asking. I'm pretty sure we just sort of stick to the one or the other, right? That's how it works here. And call me a bigot, but I'm kind of happy about that. I'm a fan. At any rate, let's see here. When I'm in a musical situation with a group, and let's say the bass player, I'll just pick on bass players for a minute. Hey, Honky Bear. Yeah, I'll pick on bass players. So, I'm sorry. I love you guys. I often tell people to avoid the chat if they're family or friends of mine when they come in to watch the show. Just because it can get pretty crazy. But sometimes you guys absolutely slay me in laughter. Bigot Drum Bear. That's awesome. That's so funny. Oh, it's hilarious. Maybe that's an upcoming shirt. Hang on. That may be an upcoming shirt. Or sticker or something. Demonetized. Yeah, that's what happened. All right. New sticker idea. Or shirt. I'll just say /shirt. Idea. Thanks, Andrew J. I'll put that in a note. I just got to write it down or I'm going to forget. Bigot Drum Bear. What graphic should go with that? What kind of graphic should go with that? Should we take a picture of me and send it to Steve and have him graphically redesign it and make it look like Richard Spencer or something? Like make me look like Richard Spencer. Or I don't know. Maybe Woodrow Wilson, right? Maybe it'd be better to make me look like Woodrow Wilson somehow. That could be funny. That would be appropriate, right? White Hood. Oh, man. That could be a difficult shirt to wear, but it might have to happen. Nazi officer. Oh, man. Junk in a white hood. That's awesome. Oh, man. You guys are great. You're helping me come up with merch ideas. I love that. How many of you would wear a chunk shirt or have a chunk sticker on their car with him having a white hood on? How many people would have the cojones to do that? Oh my goodness. That's funny, right? There better be some kind of explanation, or otherwise I could get a lot of people into some unpleasant times. Oh boy. That's hilarious. Okay, so that's saved. That's an idea. Thank you, Andrew J. Oh, I'm crying. It's funny. Oh, man. Oh, wow. Yeah, welcome, Uru Sledge, to the crazy house over here. Whew. Okay, I'm going to get back to my anecdote. It's going to happen. I'm going to ignore the chat for a little bit because you guys are too funny. Yeah, you know it's fixing to happen. Illuminati music plays. Oh, man. I wouldn't doubt that, Tex Rose. I would not doubt that. I believe you. It could be pretty intense. Oh, goodness. Okay, so hang on. One last one from Kodiak. Let's see here. Black and white graphic looking as first person at a drum kit showing a couple drums more fully in the front center and the others fading off the edges. Bigot printed on top. Okay. I may not be fully envisioning what you're envisioning because there's probably humor behind that, but I'm not seeing what the joke is. Man. Okay, I'm just thinking it through. At any rate, that's interesting. I'll have to dig into that a little bit more. Okay. All right. Now, focus. Back to where I'm at. So, you're in a band, right? Here's the anecdote from the musical side. You're in a band, and I'm picking on bass players just for the fun of it. I love bass players, but I think I'll do that for now. Let's say the bass player is like, you're playing a phrase like boom boom chum dum bum dum chum dum chum dum 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 da da dum bum. And the bass player like rushes the end of the phrase. He jumps at the end of it and gets back to beat one a little too quickly. And he's repeatedly doing that. How do you help that bass player? How do you go about doing that? Do you go about saying, you suck, get it right? Some people might. There might be a case where that bass player is a jerk and doesn't listen, then maybe. But what are some other ways that you could probably broach that issue without having to be a jerk, right? What could you do with a little more finesse, right? Give him a beer in the midst of the song might be difficult. That'll slow him down, right? But you guys are making me think of Stephen Brule references now, Tim and Eric stuff that it's probably not worth your time. I know a particular friend of mine that would appreciate that. Let's see now. One thing that I would do is try to more emphatically play some kind of a fill at the end of that phrase. Well, I'm talking about you're on a gig. You're playing a gig and the bass player's doing this, right? And the bass player may not realize that they're doing this. They may not hear it for whatever reason, right? And I don't always assume you're going to get to play with like the top-notch musicians of all time. It's not my experience that I always get to, although I get to often play with the musicians that are far superior to me, and it blows my mind. So, so you be the metronome, you be that clock and give that nice and precise tempo where they ought to be, and that can help orally, right, lock them back in place. You just play it on the hi-hat if you wanted to, or on the ride some you could play out like full 16th notes at the end of the Forienda, right at the end of the phrase. So you won't rush the phrase. After a couple of iterations, they might get it, right? If that's not working alone, keep doing it, but then also try to make eye contact. Eye contact is huge. I've had people do that to me when I'm doing the things that I'm talking about, right? It's mostly I'm saying bass player, but it's me. I'm the one who's done these kind of things plenty, and I've had far better musicians do kind things like this to me. Hey, yeah, and they'll look at me and try to dig into the groove a little better. I was having an issue on a gig myself just last Friday night. I was playing a gig with my good buddy Scott and our good friend Mo on the saxophone, and there was a part where I was having trouble. The Scott's amplifier for his guitar was facing away from me, and I was having trouble locking in rhythmically with what he was trying to do on something. I think I was pushing it too hard, too fast. And he looked at me. He definitely looked at me and like more physically got the rhythm going, the backbeats with his strumming technique. And I was able to visually lock in with that better because I was having trouble catching the rhythm aurally. It wasn't getting to my ear right for whatever reason. So I locked better in with that, and we got into a really, really cool groove. It's several parts within that tune. It was a lot of fun. But it's things like that can help. When you're willing to try to fix an issue, right? You're willing to say, I see a problem here, but I'm not going to rant and rave at the person like, you should just know, even if they should just know. You're going to say, what can I do? What can I take responsibility for in the situation? And how can I be humble about it, knowing that I make mistakes myself, right? Not crushing the spirit of the other person just because I'm ticked off about something, that's not working right. It all comes back to that willingness to build yourself up. You need to be clear in order to do that. You need to have clarity, and you do that by practicing being clear in the way you communicate. So you have to think of these ways of clear communication, which means that you have to be responsible for how to be clear in how you communicate things. But it also means you have to be humble in how you do it, to not make assumptions that they should just know certain things, even if it's reasonable that they should. At that moment in time, for whatever reason, they're not understanding what it is you think they should be. So if you have humility about that, you're much more likely to communicate your message in the way you need to. Now, all that said, there are definitely times when somebody's being ridiculous and they need a little more of a hard response because they've earned it, and it would be inappropriate to not give them a more hard communication to get an idea through their mind, especially if they're about to get physically hurt, or if they're about to physically hurt you because of their lack of awareness of what's going on. Their lack of precision, right, is going to damage you or someone else. Then yeah, you need to immediately deal with that situation. I think there are times in the political climate where we need to be a little bit more just straightforward. People have drawn lines in the sand and they said, no, we're going this way, but then try to weaponize compassion against you, or they try to claim that you're doing horrible, awful things, or you support someone who's doing horrible, awful things, when half of the examples that they offer are incomplete at best and complete lies at worst, right? So you can still employ, sounds like church pans. Funny, man. You can still employ responsibility. You must employ responsibility. That's a requirement. Like, we have to do that. It's part of us being here. We have to continue to take up responsibility where we're able, because we got to live here, right? That doesn't mean we take up everybody's responsibilities, because you're not doing somebody you're not doing anybody a service to the, you're not doing a service to people when you take up their responsibilities all the time, but you put them in a position to realize their responsibility and to encourage them that there's value in taking up responsibility. That's important for whatever task they need to carry out. But if you maintain the humility in the midst of it, recognizing that you've dropped the ball on plenty of responsibilities, and for whatever reason, this person might have trouble with that. If you take this mindset that you're going to go low first, right? Which is really to go high. You're going to lower yourself, and to lower yourself is really to go high, as we would say. You're going to lower yourself a little bit in order to better get the message across. I may have told this story once. I remember hearing it. I want to say it was Ravi Zacharias, an Indian gentleman who is a Christian evangelical and apologist, in a sense, not apologizing for those that might not be familiar with that term for the faith or anything, but come from the Greek word apologia, where we do get the word apologize, but it has a different meaning than we usually use it contextually in our language. Apologia, or apologetics, as they talk about it, is giving a reason or answer to why someone has a belief, say in Christianity, for example, or the biblical faith. Worthwhile digging into. It's interesting stuff. But Ravi was speaking on I think, if I'm wrong and it's not Ravi, fine. For some reason, I'm thinking it was him. I think was speaking of this very famous mountaineer, gentleman who'd done some of the greatest feats in mountaineering in his lifetime, extremely well known. And at one point, there's going to be a photo opportunity done where, sorry, just stretching there. There was going to be a photo op. Where this guy was going to have his picture taken with a bunch of other people within the field of mountaineering. And the photographer comes up to him, and he's holding his pickaxe. Back when they were using pickaxe stuff for doing this. He's holding the pickaxe, and he's saying, no, that's not how you hold it. This is how you got to hold it. This is how, like, the professionals would do this. And everybody else that's there, their jaw's like, did he just tell him that? Did this photographer just tell that guy that's not how you hold it? Really? But here's the thing. That gentleman, who was the professional mountaineer, like extremely well-known and extremely proficient gentleman for many decades, had been doing amazing things, just said, oh, okay, thank you. Was extremely humble about the whole experience. Could have easily wiped the floor with this guy, but said, that's okay. That's fine. Had finesse about the whole situation. Wasn't going to be the end of the world if he held it differently because that guy wanted to do the picture, right? Was totally cool with it. And whatever was going up inside of the guy's head at the time, I have no idea. He may have just been thinking, this little snot, who does he think he is? But then chosen to say, okay, I'm gonna respond this way. He may have been having restraint, or he may have practiced it where it was his instinct to say, maybe this guy is trying to set the picture up in a certain way. That's fine. I don't know. That's fine. I'll just respond with kindness. And he did. Made a totally different dynamic to the situation. There are times when we need to be more forthright. There are times where we need to be a little more intense in response to people that are mucking things up around us, or that are doing their part. But if we first ask the question, are we doing anything to muck stuff up personally in this situation, or whatever the case may be? And if the answer is ever been yes at any time, that's reason enough to have some humility about it. But even if the humility is just to temper your response and make sure that it's clear and that it serves the purpose, that you get your own ego out of the situation. You're not responding just to say, well, I'm feeling angry and I'm just going to satiate that need to knock this sucker out of the park because they're being an idiot and I'm justified. If we're able to say, you know what? Just because I feel that way is not a justification for doing what I'm doing. What's going to be most effective in this situation? How can I serve this situation and that person better so that everyone is benefited in the situation, not just my own emotions at this point in time? Because that really ends up being not a self-serving, but a self-defeating approach to deal with those kind of things. I am chief in the ways of serving self-defeating purposes in my own life and communication, plenty. But I am continually compelled to stop and say, well, I don't know everything about the situation. I do know some things. And maybe in this situation, my thoughts on this are correct. But what can I do here? Even if I have to stop and just be quiet for a minute, what can I do to better serve the situation? Let's not be super quick to assume that railing at somebody, even if we don't think it is, maybe be better at identifying when we're about to do that, and then saying, you know what, railing at somebody, even if they've earned it, isn't necessarily for their best or mine or anybody else's. What could be a better way? How might we build somebody up? How might we edify them? Because it's not gonna do good to just create more angst and more enemies. Granted, sometimes that's out of our hands. Some people are determined to be opposed. Sometimes there isn't common ground to be had. And I'll be the first one to so say it. But if we can be not quite so knee-jerk to assume that, I think that's going to be absolutely necessary. I don't know what's fixing to happen today. You know, I suspect, I'm thinking voting-wise now, I suspect that the House is probably going to sway more blue. I think that's likely to be the case. But I don't know. I mean, it might not. Either way, whether it goes all blue or all red, or more blue or more red, some folks out there are going to be having a pretty rough day. Some folks might have a perception of the situation and really think that the sky's falling, think that something bad's happening, you know, on either side of the aisle, as it being. And plenty of libertarians are going to be feeling, you know, rough. It'll be business as usual for a lot of libertarians, because I think there's going to be, you know, maybe a little further growth in some of the libertarian candidates that are chosen, but maybe not as much as a lot of libertarians are hoping. I want to be wrong about that. I think maybe there could be some utility in that option being there. But there's going to be hurt people that are not mentally and emotionally strong enough to shrug this kind of thing off, regardless of what way it goes, and say, well, my life is still going on. So expect that that's going to be the case, and see what kind of role you can play in de-escalating tensions. Now, rock the memes light Twitter up with hilarity. You know, humor has to be done, and there are people that are going to be on the opposite end of that humor, but that's not something we can stop. I think memeing is definitely important. I advocate it, and I will probably be throwing out some memes of my own at some point throughout the day because it's fun and it's funny. Got to speak truth through that art form. You have to do it. Keep speaking truth, you know. But when you're in individual personal situations, you know, think about how can you hear people better, and how can you speak more precisely? How can you say what you want to truly say? Break down what it is, the ultimate message is that you're trying to get across, and say, what's the best way to get this across? Not, you know, pick up your trumpet or your trombone or whatever instrument you happen to be communicating through. And I'm saying instruments as a metaphor. And go, when that wasn't what you intended to play, right? That's not what you intended to communicate. You got across far less comprehensible stuff than you wanted to. Instead, well, that's not so good either. Hang on. I pushed my valve out a little too far. Again, not my first instrument, but that's no excuse. Clear, consistent tone, understandable, right? If nothing else, can people know that even if they disagree with you, that you're going to be fair, that you're going to be clear. They're going to be able to understand you. Well, and then there's a large part of that's on them, right? There's some people that no matter what you say, they won't understand, and I've seen that, but oh, thank you, Kodiak. Hey, Bisky. Haven't seen Bisky Bear in a while. That's pretty cool. I dig that. I always love it when people are back here and they haven't been around for a while. It's good stuff. Steve's in here. Gotta love Steve being here. Legionary. That's cool. Bears are awesome. I always love being back with the Bears. The Bears. So, yeah, it's gonna be an interesting day. And just keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes peeled for what may come. I think there's, you know, it's funny. We get into our circles and we talk about certain things, like say the Sayoc guy, the van man, who had the clearest, most brilliant and intricate stickers on every window. And I think a lot of us look at details of that, and there's many of us that go, okay, there's some jacked up stuff going on here that doesn't add up. Like, sorry, we're not seeing this. It's not as common for people to do that. We're accustomed to not always buying whatever the mainstream news source says. Whether it's Fox, CNN, and MSNBC, whatever. We're accustomed amongst this group of folks of not necessarily buying into that, right? And knowing there's probably more behind the scenes of whatever situations are talked about in the main news. A lot of us are accustomed to that. There's a lot of other people who are not. They're not outside of that bubble yet. They don't know how to process and think outside that bubble. And so, or they're not accustomed or comfortable with that. There's a lot of people who are really intelligent and kind, wonderful people that have never even heard of some of the alternative sources of information that they don't know. They didn't even know about Ben Shapiro, you know, and I think of Ben Shapiro as more mainstream in some ways, but you know, not. I mean, he's an alternative outlet. They don't know about the Dave Rubins who could agree with them. They don't know about Jordan Peterson's post or pre apologizing to an angry mob avocation. They don't know accusation against against parentheses hate speech. For those of you that don't follow that one, oh, you got to check that. I had a fun response to that a little while back on Twitter. Apparently there was some tweet that was going on from Peterson, and he mentioned that like some people were out there spouting their anti-Semitism and using these 3 parentheses on either sides of words. And I'm sure people were doing that, and there was some code, mixed in amongst that. But I thought, well, it's the use of the parenthesis in and of itself is not, or triple parenthesis is not in and of itself a anti-Semitic thing. Like, I'm not going to bow to that one. And so I went and made like a Star of David out of triple parentheses. It was just fun. But useful information there is from that source, at least in the past. There's some good things there, and I encourage people to dig into some of that. It's like cleaning up your room is important. That is a good thing, right? He's not the only one to have said it. There's some worthwhile stuff. It's useful to learn how to better articulate yourself. I learned a lot of that from listening to Peterson's stuff, and I'm grateful for that. I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater entirely. But I also I start thinking that he might be partly Jewish, so he's probably up to something. But that aside, he hasn't made it snow in April yet, so I'm not Sergeant Peterson. Rule 13, give me your money. That's hilarious, man. Oh my goodness. So, 4chan did that, huh? It's still hilarious, whatever's going on there. Having a wife to clean your room. All right, come on. We got to get our responsibility up. Come on now. Yeah, I agree. It's better. It's nicer because I'm not good at doing those things. But I still endeavor to get better because it's good for them, to not be alone in that department. It's cracking me up. So yeah, there's a lot of folks out there that don't know about, the Stefan Molyneux, and they're not ready to go there, and I'm like, why not? That they're not prepared to intake information in that format. That's really what it comes down to. They're accustomed to the soundbite format. They're accustomed to the 6 minutes to a commercial format to digest bits and pieces of things, the way that it tends to be broken down, right? In mainstream stuff. So a lot of us have been out of that sphere for a while, or we can step out of that sphere and dig into the alternative YouTube sphere, the long form. Heck, if you come to my channel, it's pretty much all long form, right? But we're much more accustomed to processing thoughts over the span of time, right? We're used to saying, okay, well, that was already said, so I can store that part in memory and then take new stuff on top of it and add that to the previous stuff. And I don't as easily get tripped up like, oh, hey, you're saying this now. It's like, but I said this earlier, so those things go together, right? A lot of us are getting better at that, but there's still a lot of other people out there that are not accustomed to layering these different aspects of a bigger thought on top of each other and processing it. It's kind of scary to them. They're capable of it. I think there's a lot of folks out there that are quite capable of that, but they're just not as practiced at it. They're not as adept at it. And it's absolutely necessary, especially in the times that we live in, because a lot of the issues we're dealing with are not simplistic in that way. They have nuances to them. They have details that make or break, that issue, that make the difference, as we're trying to discuss it and understand it better. So some people are just at that stage right now where they're still accustomed to, well, this is how you process an issue in this format. Let's look at, think about James Lindsay and Peter Boghossian and Helen Pluckrose doing those spoof papers to academia in the area of grievance studies, as they would like to call it. I think some other people might refer to it as grievance studies as well. demonstrate that the way academia is processing information that's submitted in the form of papers has to be done in this particular format. And if it's not done in that format, it's like, that's not good scholarship. But as long as you're in that format, you can say whatever the heck you want. You can suggest that incidents of dogs engaging in the mating movement, whether it's for dominance purposes or actual attempts at mating, contribute to sexual assault culture, right? Rape culture in America. And that's obviously fallacious. It's ridiculous. But it gets passed through as great scholarship and gets published in major journals, right? Because those people within those spheres are accustomed to processing information according to a certain format. And if it's not done in that format, then it's like, well, that can't really count as viable information. You know, that's not something that we can work with here. It doesn't factor in to our thinking. So, wow, that's a weird one. I just got a phone call from 800-000-0000. I am not answering that because I don't know what that's all about. You know, she did nothing wrong. Oh my goodness. So, are you following me here? I mean, is this making sense? I get what I'm saying, and I'm attempting to be clear, but I have to admit that, like how I started this whole thing, clarity, taking the time to practice and make sure that your communication with people is clear and understandable, that you're edifying, that you're doing something that will actually get across to them and be useful, that's where you got to start. And I fail at that regularly. So sometimes I have to check. I have to ask because I know I'm not perfect at it. So I'll say, yeah, is that tracking? You know, I just doxed Pinder. That's funny. Pinder bat phone. Oh, I love you guys. You guys are killing me. Oh, man. I just didn't think anybody had such a number. That's just weird. I was like, this has got to be like a sales call. I don't know what's going on there. So it's so important for us to be patient with people and to really look into folks that we meet day to day and try to understand how do they process information. We may be saying all these words to them. We may be saying stuff that to us makes sense. We're layering thoughts. We're trying to get things across. And you can go the opposite direction and then oversimplify and miss a whole bunch of stuff. Some people are only accustomed to the oversimplification of issues, and they miss a lot of stuff that like makes the difference in understanding that issue correctly or more completely. Sometimes you do have to start with folks where you just start on the fundamental principles of an important issue. Honky, you always throw out the good stuff. Honky just tossed me some music, it would seem, and I'm going to have to pick up on that later. I love it when people send me, different links and things like that, because I love to check out good music. I'm a fan. I'm definitely a fan. Yeah. Know that people are there's a lot of people out there that are only accustomed to processing things in a certain way, and take that into account when you're trying to communicate yourself clearly with others. When you want it to be effective and not just talking for the sake of you expressing it, try to be checking. I find myself struggling with this when I talk to my wife at times. Like, I will think that what I'm saying makes sense, but I'm like, I'm going on for a while, and it's not typical for the average person to track everything that you're saying and follow thoughts more complexly that way. In fact, it's more common for people to have conversation where they're exchanging individual comments back and forth, and not paragraphs and not pages and chapters at a time. That's much more common. Though we tend to spend a lot of time in the YouTube sphere, you know, where people do speak that way, you know, and I think there's some utility for that as long as you're giving the other person opportunity to speak in that way as well, and you're prepared to listen in that way. And I think both are good, because then we get more of an opportunity to fully express it. But it's so important to know your audience and know some people are prepared to receive that, some are not. You can't account for everybody. You can't cater to every single person out there. At some point, you do have to draw a line and say, this is what I have to do. And people are either going to dig it or not. But where you're able, in one-on-one situations, take up the responsibility and choose humility as you move forward in that. Because I guarantee you, you have the opportunity to win a heart and mind in some of these big, weighty issues that we're facing in this time. That's the stuff that's going to do it. The humility is going to be one of the biggest aspects. When you're able to do that, when you're able to, and some people look at it as weakness. Some people do look at it as weakness. Absolutely. Discernment is what's necessary. Choose to have discernment and put humility at the core of that. And if you find you're wrong, oh well, okay, so you're wrong, and they just still decide to be a complete jerk. Dust your feet off and walk on. You're right. You give people an opportunity, but you don't do it forever. Even God put a limit on how long he was going to have mercy with people, right? There still came a time. And I look back in the story of the flood, and you look at the genealogy of the patriarchs. Patriarchy! No, but the actual patriarchy, which was not a bad thing at that time, per se. You go from from Adam down to Noah, right? The first 10 major patriarchs that are listed in Genesis chapter 5. And one of my favorite chapters, by the way. Genealogy? Oh yeah, but I won't deal with that. I think I've talked about that in previous things. Shows, streams, what have you. But there's this guy, Noah's grandpa, a guy named Methuselah. You might have heard the name. He's the oldest recorded human being in the Bible. 969 years of age. Some people want to quibble about how long was a year and how old were they really. I don't know. But I think there's reasonable, there's enough evidence from the text and context that goes along in other places in that chapter to suggest that these were years comparable to whatever we have, or pretty darn close. But 969. Let's say it was even remotely comparable to what our years are. That's old. That's really old, right? And I guess there is tradition, and there's some scripture references in the New Testament as well that speak back to this, that at the end of Methuselah's life is when the flood would come, right? Flood would happen at the end of Methuselah's time. His name, Methuselah, even indicates that muth is the root for the word for death, right? And shalak is a verb, which indicates bringing something, that something shall be brought, shall be given. So the idea of Methuselah is that the death of this person shall bring about something, right? And what, I'm not sure, but that's how it's been said to me. His death shall bring. I'm sure that there's more detail in there that's possibly an oversimplification. I'm not a Hebrew scholar by any means, and I don't know what worth that would be if I was. But be that as it may, there's something going on there, reference to death and something accompanying death. And the indications and implications of the language are that it has to do with this person's death. So the understanding that I have is that when Methuselah died, it was in that same year that the flood came. in some traditions, a week after his death. But that's traditions. I don't know of any other truly corroborating evidence to support that other than that it's a tradition. But it could be. It's interesting. So long before the flood was brought, God had it pretty clear. The earth, all people had corrupted their ways, and the earth was filled with violence through them. That Hebrew word for violence is chamas, violence. And it's an interesting word to dig into and study at its roots. The root word is ham. And that was the name of one of the sons of Noah, interestingly enough. But the earth was filled with violence. It was stirred up. Heat is involved in this. Heat is applied to molecules, the atoms are stirred about. They're the particles within. They're moving. They're active. They're all over the place. And so there's a great amount of turmoil, heat involved. It's a boiling up. Something's about to bubble over. That's the concept. That's the visual aspect of this term. So the earth is continuing to build up in this in some way. Something's fixing to go down. And God says at some point, my spirit will not contend with man forever. His days shall be 120 years. Some people, and myself included, used to think that mean people weren't going to live beyond 120 anymore after that. And my understanding is then that's not what that's in reference to. That's in reference to, at the point of this decree, got 120 years until the flood comes. Get 120 years left until the flood rains down. I don't know for sure, but that's the best understanding that I have thus far. It seems the most probable of understanding on that point. And it seems that it's fairly clear that that's the case, but I could always be wrong. Don't think I am. But at any rate, so now there's this point where Noah is going to get to know, hey, it's going to be a flood coming. You got some time here. You got to build this ark. You got to get this sucker built. So you and your family are going to make it through. And when the oldest guy in the Bible croaks, the oldest guy ever recorded, his life ends. Like his name says, flood precedes that. It precedes the coming of the flood. His death precedes the coming of that worldwide deluge that changes so many different aspects of the planet that we live on. God has mercy as I read the Bible. That's continually an aspect of his person, not giving people what they have earned, not doling out the consequences per se that they have earned right then and there. I'm definitely a walking example of that. I've earned far more consequences for my deeds in this life than I've received. And God has saw fit to say, well, no, there's other things that are going to happen, blessings and different things that are going to go on in your life that are unmerited because I choose to. It's my choice. I'm God. That's how it works. Okay. If that's the example he's giving us, ought we not to also perhaps give that to the people in our lives? Doesn't mean that we never have a limit. There's got to be a point. But wow, the longest lifetime in the Bible is a picture of his mercy. 969 years. Does it mean we wait that long till we finally unleash on people or scale it in some way? I don't know that this is intended as a precise measurement, for any of that. Kind of the same deal when, the disciples says, should we forgive someone 7 times, or whatever, if they come back? He says, nay, I say 70 times 7, and is he saying 490 times? Is that what he means, that you forgive somebody? until you don't forgive them anymore? Is that the recipe? 490 times? Or is it meant as a figure of speech in which to suggest you keep it up? Like, hope that you don't ever have to get there. Always be in hope that you don't have to get there. You see Abraham talking with God in Genesis and saying, I know you're going to go to destroy this city, but what if there are 50 righteous? He says, if there are 50, I won't destroy the city. What about, would you buy 45? If there's 45, I won't destroy the city. Maybe 40? I won't do it. Just don't kill me. 30? Won't destroy it. 20? I won't destroy it. Please don't be annoyed with me. Please don't strike me down. Last time, I swear, last time. What if there's 10? I won't do it. I won't destroy the city for the 10 righteous. Mercy. Mercy. Jonah. He's ticked off. He's just gotten out of this whale. He went and did what God told him to do. He went through Nineveh. He said, 40 days and comes destruction. 40 days. That's what you got. Destruction. I'm not even trying to save you. I'm not trying to get you to repent. 40 days comes destruction. Period. I just spent 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a giant fish, whale thing, whatever the heck it was. I was up in there. I'm bleached white from the stomach acids. Probably got a bunch of kelp and seaweed all over my ears. I'm not a happy camper. 40 days comes destruction. I don't want to be here because the prophecies are that your people are going to imprison and kill my people down the road. I don't want that to happen. I hope God does destroy you for your wickedness. 40 days comes destruction. You're done. The king, just on the possibility that this might be the case, everybody, sackcloth and ashes. You're starving yourself. We're fasting. We're fasting. Even the animals are fasting. I'm not even going to take any chances. I don't want to work. I don't want any possibility that this God is going to wipe us out. We're bowing down. Period. And Jonah's like, God saved him? Dang it. Gosh, dang it. And God's like, hold on. There's 120,000 people in that city that don't know their right arm from their left. Infants. There's 120,000 at least in that city that are infants. And you want me to destroy it? What's your problem? Get over yourself. Of course I'm going to save him. That's what I do. Mercy. They haven't earned it. But they chose to repent when they recognized it. They made that choice. We don't have the whole picture. How are we going to make the judgments on who needs to be clobbered? We do have the ability to make distinction. And we should be making distinction. When something isn't good, when someone's actions aren't good for us or others. And we definitely need to make that distinction. But do we need to clobber them? Do we need to just waste people because they're doing something we're pretty sure is stupid? There's a time and a place. But maybe if we can keep in mind that there might be a better way than what we're thinking. And if we have the humility to stop ourselves and say, maybe I've screwed up too. Maybe I need to think, is there a better way to be clear in what I'm communicating to make sure they get the message as much as it's within my power. And whatever I can't do, rely on the big guy to take care of the rest. And then take responsibility, right? That's the other part of it. To say, I can do this. Clobber all commies is one thing. That's true, Field of Bears. If there's communists, maybe I rescind everything I'm saying now. Helicopters are clear. Oh, my goodness. Oh, boy. You guys slay me. It's so good. I hope you all are uplifted a little bit. As you move forward, you get out there, go to the polls today, do your thing. You encounter wonderful people and you encounter whack job people. How can you serve? How can you do something that, even if it's unmerited, communicates yourself clearly and hopefully illuminates things to that person clearly in a way that builds them up? Sometimes you got to be more intense. Absolutely. Don't stop, but temper it with humility and your willingness to take on responsibility. You guys, I hope that you all have a fantastic Tuesday. And in the meantime, engage your mind, engage your body, and engage your heart. Seek to serve the ultimate purpose. Bears, a pieces. Good to see you.